Three, look out now. The sideline, forget about it. This baby's over.
Oh, my goodness. One man. Goodbye. Hello, Heisman.
And most especially in 310 days in Ann Arbor, Michigan, on the football field.
Another block. One more, he's gone. Touchdown, no flag.
Samuel cuts it back. Ohio State wins.
Here's the run again. Donovan Edwards. No, can they catch him? No, Donovan Edwards again. Go down.
All righty, welcome back, everybody. Garrison, brother, good to see you again, man. How we doing?
Yeah, Bryce, how are you?
I'm good. Good to be back on. I know we were supposed to release the next episode yesterday, but we had some things come up, which is all good. So pivoting and coming out with something today. So we're really excited about it. I will say great feedback. First and foremost, thanks everybody for tuning in to episode 1. Got a lot of really solid feedback. A lot of views. I think at this point of recording, we're already at 85 views for the first episode, which is awesome. And so we appreciate everybody tuning in, jumping on board. We're super excited about this. We're just getting started. We got big things coming. A lot we'll clean up, iron out here. But yeah, real appreciative of everybody tuning in to episode 1. And here we are at episode 2. Garrison, anything that you heard?
Oh no, man. I'll give the same sentiment, man. Just thank you to everyone that tuned into it, watched. Like I said, we got a lot of good feedback. We got some awesome critiquing from a few people. Definitely needed that also. And yeah, again, we're just really excited to be here and give you the news you needed.
That's right. Talk about all the hot button issues in our rivalry, but then in the sport and beyond here too. So we got a lot of really good stuff to talk about today. It's crazy. It's July 20th, 21st, and we're still, 48 days away from the start of the season or whatever the count is.
48 days. Yeah, man.
48 days. And it's just, there's still so much news every single day that comes out, whether big, whether small, but people are talking about stuff and excited to dive in. Hey, I got a couple housekeeping items though on our end. So my old man called out a few of our snafus from the last show, and we got to be better. We'll be better. We'll clean things up. Garrison, the first one is we watched the game together in 2006. Obviously the game, the game of the century type game.
We watched that together?
We did. We were at a certain friend's house. I won't say the name here.
Okay.
But that was correction there because we talked about that. The other mistake I made, which is a bad mistake, so Michigan fans, apologies, hand up here. I said in 2011, we played Sparty at home. We kicked the last second field goal. That was 2012. So that's a bad miss. I'll clean that up. And then the other last thing I noticed, and shout out to Ladarius, who I'm sure is listening to this, of course, but I just said, I put up the graphic of notable offensive linemen, didn't include the transfer from Arizona State from Michigan, Ladarius Henderson. He was not actually on the roster for the spring game, but I'm presuming that he'll be on there going forward here. So cleaning things up here. We're getting better. We're figuring this out, aren't we?
Oh yeah, we definitely are. And I mean, like we said earlier, I do plan on putting a few Buckeye stuff in the background for me. Until then, you can look at this right here. Oh, here we go. There we go.
Classic Buckeye. Just,
beautiful, isn't it?
What's the chain? I don't understand the chain. Or is the chain to the logo?
Yeah, since a lot of people don't know what Buckeyes are, these are Buckeyes, of course. Hairless nuts.
Yep.
And
he made that joke 15 years ago, and we both laughed, actually. So what does that say about both of us? I don't know. Well, yeah, we're like I said, we're figuring this out, and thanks everyone for being here. So let's dive right in because there's enough to talk about here. We had a few other things I think we're going to start with, but just looking at social media and Twitter, there's a lot of chatter about the two quarterback situations at our schools. Very different storylines, but there's still a lot of talk. Obviously, the battle between Devin Brown, Kyle McCord, and then the reactions to JJ. Maybe I'll label it just that, JJ McCarthy. So, Garrison, I'm going to give you the floor here, and I think the fans want to hear from you. Who do you want to be starter? And maybe that's not even a fair question, but who do you think will be given first snaps?
Uh, I believe when the season starts, Cal McCord will be the quarterback at Ohio State University. Um, Now it's not because I solely believe he's better than Devin Brown. Devin Brown, I would say, probably has more upside than him. He's a better athlete, bigger arm. Um, I mean, a lot of people notice on 3, Devin Brown was the number 1 player in the nation on there. So it's not as though he's some nobody. You know what I'm saying? Of course, Cal McCord was number 6 quarterback coming out of high school, right behind JJ at 5 as a 5-star. And so, it's like I said, there's no shortage of talent in that quarterback room. But this is where the problem lies for Devin, I think. In those first 3 games, Kyle's not going to lose that starting job in those first 3 games. Now, yeah, there's a chance he goes and plays Indiana and does a bad job. And I'm not sitting here saying that Indiana is the litmus test for Ohio State football, okay? If he goes in there and lights it up, he's the guy. Because you go in there, it's Big Ten play, first week of the year, which means it can sometimes get kind of funky the first game of the year. I think if he goes in there and lights it up, he's the guy. And like I said, it's so short. If one guy takes the spot, it's not because I think the other one failed to do anything to get the job. I think Ryan Day is very good about who he picks at quarterback. And whoever gets the job is because he believes that guy is going to lead us to a national champion or championship. So,
yeah, as critical as I was of Ryan Day, there's obviously nothing you can say bad about his choice, quarterback, and how he coaches that room and really runs the offense around him. Albeit this year is going to be different, right? With Hartline calling the plays, but you have to believe and have some confidence in him to make the right choice. Those of you who don't know, Ohio State opens with Indiana, Youngstown State week 2, Western Kentucky week 3, and then the big one with Notre Dame in South Bend the week after that. So you're saying 3 weeks, those first 3 games, McCord wouldn't lose the job, but you're saying Notre Dame.
I think Devin's going to get a chance. I think he'll get his chance in those games.
Yeah. It'll be. It's a fun schedule, right? Opening with Indiana can always be tricky, and you're at Indiana for that game too. Which, say what you want about Bloomington, but it's gonna be week 1. It looks like it's a 2:30 start, so I'm surprised you don't get the night game there.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah, and then yeah, Notre Dame, which we'll, as we get closer, we'll talk more about that one, of course, right? But I actually saw yesterday on Twitter, Sam Hartman, he was doing an interview or something, just with Notre Dame garb on, and it was just that moment of like, oh, whoa, this could be a different team, this Notre Dame team. So we won't get into it now because we'll have plenty of time to talk about that game. I know that game will be hyped up to the max when we get closer to it. But
and I'll point out, like I said, I had put that a tweet out about the quarterback situation at Ohio State. And I gave 4 options. I think they're pretty fair options. I gave, what's the OSU fan base leaning towards? 70% Browns, 70% McCord, 50-50, or it doesn't matter. Surprisingly, I'm not surprised by it, but McCord got most of the votes. And then the second amount of votes was it doesn't matter, which I lean towards. I lean towards it doesn't matter. So
it's going to be hard to argue that. It's going to be, it's kind of a no-lose situation, it feels like.
Yeah.
Where I'm just hoping for one of them's a bust. That'd be sweet. All right. So
speaking of the lesser quarterback up the road,
let's hear your thoughts. And also not lesser quarterback. We're not going to let that ricochet shot hit my guy JJ. Don't even. But yeah, I'll give you the floor again. So what's all this about JJ and fans in Columbus and spewing hate? What is this?
I think, and this is my opinion about the situation, because a bunch of Michigan fans think that people just hate JJ. Okay. I think Michigan fans have this tendency that when they have something that they really, really like when they have a toy that they really like a baby, they tend to cling onto it too hard and protect it with their whole life. And if you give the slightest critique of JJ, Michigan fans blow up and think you don't know football, you're disregarding his talent. No, when in reality, it's just the fact that he lacks in a few things that a lot of just like any other quarterback does. They lack in things. Um, I was in a Twitter space, I think it was a week ago, Bryce, and I told everyone he is not good out of the pocket. He, I think it's okay. He can't read, doesn't read well out of the pocket. A post comes up a few days later. It shows every single throw of JJ had against Ohio State. Outside of that Cornelius touchdown, Bryce, he had two guys that were wide open on touchdowns. We can both agree with that, correct?
Yeah, you're talking about outside of the curl route on the outside.
CJ was open, Loveland was open.
Yeah.
Just open. Outside of that, Bryce, he threw 50%.
In that game.
In that game, 12 for 14 in that game. I think it was passes from 0 to 9 yards. He was very accurate. Passes outside of that, horrible.
Yeah.
And
you're picking out the one game.
I mean, in the whole month of November, JJ threw under 60%.
Yeah.
So that's all. I think people are kind of like how they are with Jaden Davis, man. If like every time he moves down the rankings, Michigan fans blow up. They just blow up. I think Michigan, they're just really protective of their quarterbacks. And I think you guys are really protective of your talented quarterbacks, like these two are, because you're not used to having really good quarterback play. And I think this is what it is.
Yeah. So I mean, I think it's probably a couple things. Whatever. I'm not gonna like respond to every sad person's tweet about someone being mean to JJ, but I'll get out here in front of this now and say that I think JJ is going to have a monstrous year this year.
I agree.
I think he's got the goods and he's got the tools. I think if you go back into, obviously came in freshman year, back up behind Cade, came in for a few plays, had a couple of big passes and some big games. Think of the Ohio State game, had a few big tosses in that game, one to Roman Wilson, I think it was a third down conversion. Regardless, last season, then he came in. Obviously, they flipped the games, right? So the Cade started, and then JJ started, and then JJ kind of ran away with it, right? So, my point is, I think going into this year, I think with a full offseason, with weapons back, Cornelius Johnson, Roman Wilson, you really just lost Ronnie Bell, and then you've got some young, really talented wide receivers coming in. And like I said, you get the full offseason as QB1. I think they're gonna really explode. He's gonna really explode on the scene here. So, yeah, I don't know. To go back to the point of just, fans taking things personally and complaining, that's fair. I think we love our guy. I think the last thing I'll say about JJ that is important to know is that in 2020, that recruiting class was a disaster. Like that season was a disaster. The recruiting class wasn't necessarily a disaster, but it wasn't great. And JJ tweeted to kind of everyone, "Hey, relax." So in the midst of the chaos, in the midst of the storm, JJ was there, really holding that class together. So
Right.
That's give some perspective into why we're sensitive about our guy. That's
and if you would be honest, like, yes, JJ, I will say, like, even for I'll talk about myself. I won't speak for everybody else. I can sometimes be turned off by JJ.
Why? What is JJ?
I like his whole. I like his aura. Okay, I like how positive of a guy he is. You know what I'm saying? I like that. I find it very funny because in the Ohio, if you watch the cinematic version of the Ohio State Michigan game, he goes, "Don't get too high, don't get too low, don't get too high, don't get too low."
Mm-hmm.
And I remember I don't argue with people about this, but I really mean this when I say this. After the TCU game, when he went to the post-game press conference, I didn't like what he did. And
not talking.
Yeah. And as the quarterback, you are the de facto leader, correct?
Yeah, you are the leader.
Yes. And it's really easy when you get into all those wins and you go post game and you get to say all the things you want to say, all those things, how good the game was, how all your teammates, how well they played. But then the one time you lose, you go and you let your teammates handle those questions up there, and then you walk off I mean, not into the sunset because you didn't win.
Yeah.
You do it. You do another photo op of you watching the team celebrate from the score, watching the score. Like now that's just corny.
Yeah.
And in my world, if you're going to do all that talking before the game, JJ, you better when it don't happen, you better go answer the questions of why that didn't happen. Answer why you didn't have smash mouth. Answer why they ran the ball better than you guys did. They played better Big Ten ball than you did. And you say you were going to bring the Big Ten to them. Did he not say that?
We're bringing up the TCU game now.
I'm just saying he can be better in those situations.
Yeah, he can. Yeah, no doubt. He's got to be a little bit, and he'll get there. He will. It's the Michigan quarterback. It's a hot seat to be on, and
I like JJ.
All right, well, good. Yeah, no, the dude's level head. The dude's calm. The dude is poised, and I think he was just this kind of the same way every Michigan fan was after that game. Shell shocked. All right, well, we'll move on. More to come there. That conversation's not going anywhere, especially with what's going on in Columbus. I'd agree with you. It feels like there's no wrong answer with that type of situation.
The bigger question is, if Devin wins that job, what's Kyle going to do?
Yeah, what's the rest of that QB room look like?
The third string Lincoln Keenholz.
Okay.
Who was we call him the Dakota Heisman. He
that kid, big. Yeah.
So he's I don't know what to make of him yet. I know he's a really good athlete. So in a couple years here, look forward to the Lincoln and Keenholz Aaron Nolan quarterback competition. So
yeah, well, Aaron Nolan's going to Oregon, I've heard. Hey, you
address that.
This is another thing I want to talk about later too. Is Marvin Harrison Jr. going to play this year? Why would you not do what your buddy did and sit out the year like he did last year?
Bryce, I'm sorry. Are we mocking guys with injuries?
I'm not mocking. It's a business.
Is that what we're doing on this show now?
I respect it.
We're questioning people's injuries.
I'm not questioning. I'm saying I understand that there is a fat wad of cash sitting in front of me. He's like, okay, if I sit, I got to get that and not risk losing that. All right, I'm gonna sit out.
There's a fat wad of cash. You can have that after you eat barbecue chicken in Ann Arbor. That's the first thing we're doing.
That'll be the first time for him.
Marvin Harrison, listen, you don't come from Hall of Fame genes and then sit out because no.
Dude, I saw this on Twitter too. The matchups between him, Kalen King, and then Will Johnson are going to be special. And I got to look at the rest of you guys' schedule. We'll see what other
when you have time, I'll send it to you later. There's a video of Marvin Harrison versus Caleb versus King. Torture chamber.
Yeah.
Torture chamber.
But I saw Kalen King was talking about it, so I think he's ready to come back this year.
Just be happy you get to watch the greatest college football player of all time, Marvin Harrison Jr. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, Garrison. It's just outrageous. Well, hey, I should do a outrageous take counter.
Yeah, I'm done with it.
That's one. Yep. That and the Brandon Ennis one you last week. All right, let's move along here. Speaking of, recruiting. So you and I talked about this ad nauseum. So for those of you listening, I am not as into recruiting as Garrison is and as other people are, and I don't blame people who are into it. It's a $1 million business for a reason, and I get it. People like it, and there is legitimacy to a lot of it as well. Example that would be the teams that win national championships have high rated recruits. Like it's pretty simple formula at the top. But for me personally, just when it comes to recruiting, they're kids, and I get it. I was that age once. And some of them like to, make a show of it. Others want to just get it out of the way. And, you never know what's going on. I remember Jair Hills, he's the freshman at Michigan right now out of Illinois. He announced his final schools and Michigan wasn't even in it, and then committed the next day.
Yeah.
Which is again, if I'm gonna sit here and say I don't really care about recruiting, I think that's hilarious. But I know that people who do were bothered by that, and to which point I'd say get a life. So a perfect segue would be Aaron Scott. What's going on with him? He was doing, I think, 7-on-7, or he was at a camp, and he was wearing Michigan gear, and then he was wearing, and then all Michigan fans were fired up about it. I think Charles tweeted about it, and it's not the first time he's tweeted about it. And then he showed up last week wearing Oregon gear, the sleeve and the gloves, and now I just know that's setting up for heartbreak for Michigan, where he's going to go to Ohio State, right? Tell me, you have insiders. Is that a lock? Is he a Buckeye lock?
Well, first off, speaking of Charles Woods, and Charles, if you want to sponsor us with Intercept Wine, we would love to have you.
Put a shameless plug right now.
You have a great product, buddy. Great product. but so I don't know. Listen, I don't know if the kid's a lock. Okay, I don't know. I've for months now I've been saying I believe Ohio State is going to get Bryce West over Michigan, that Aaron Scott was going to get, Michigan was going to get Aaron Scott over Ohio State. But either that kid is the ultimate troll for Michigan fans, or he plans on being amazing blue. But I can't imagine, Bryce, on your dad's birthday picking Michigan. I mean, his parents already said they have no intentions of wearing maize and blue. And I respect that.
Yeah, that's.
But I don't know. And at the moment, I'm probably like 60-40 Ohio State. And it would be nice to have him but Bryce West is a better athlete. Aaron is more technically sound.
Okay.
So, I mean, it'd be a great haul. That would be our third corner in the class. So that'd be nice to have. It'd be nice to have him.
Yeah, that would be.
Like, and all the experts have him going to Ohio State. So.
Yeah, right. I mean, I think On3 has like a 96% prediction. It's gonna be interesting to see. It's gonna be fun. I think you're right. He's got his dad's birthday, right? It's July 31st. Like that'd be another type of move. Yeah, so I think that one's gonna be an interesting one, a fun one to watch. I don't think people would be surprised if he puts on Buckeyes gear, puts on the Buckeye hat when it comes time. I think people would be very surprised. But I saw a quote today saying that he likes the idea of being the villain. And if you come from Springfield, Ohio, and you go up to Michigan,
getting a kid out of Springfield is hard to do. I will say that.
Hard to do.
It's hard to do. It's like getting a kid out of Glenville, man. It's hard to do from Ohio State.
Yeah.
And Michigan doesn't have a corner in the class right now.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's the other thing.
So I mean, which I find hilarious.
Yeah.
But
funny.
We'll see, man. I think some kids like to enjoy the process more. I don't blame them for it. And I think he's enjoying the process. He's enjoying his time. I mean, people don't know he actually is an Oregon fan. So I mean, yeah, man. Hey, enjoy the process, kid. Enjoy the process. I'm all for it.
Big time. And I think Jeremiah Smith, like I've seen him do different recruiting visits, and I know it sounds like to me he seems like a Buckeye lock, and he's just getting a free trip out to LA to go see USC. And I don't know, maybe there's a party that's a little concerned. That's like, what could happen?
Oh, I mean, he's already said, he says as long as Ryan Day and Brian Hartline are in Columbus, he's full on committed.
Yeah.
So I mean, why not take the trip? Why not?
LA. Yep.
Why not, man? I mean, plus, like going up, you live in Florida, go to the Florida schools. Why not? Go see what they have going on there.
Yeah.
No, I do find it. I find it hilarious that schools like Florida think they can flip him in Florida State. That's not happening. But
no, it feels like there's different leagues there.
I would give Michigan a better chance than you guys.
I think Jaden Davis might have tweeted him once, and I don't know how well that went.
Oh yeah, wasn't he going after all of our recruits?
I think so. All right. Don't disrespect my quarterback here. Look, I'm after you. You know that. Well, so this segues actually into my next point, is because I think it's interesting this year, the change, and I want to get your thoughts as a Buckeye fan. the impact that is with Michigan getting into Ohio with some recruits. And let me go down memory lane here, which is like I kind of did last time.
Mm-hmm.
So I forget what interview it was. I tried to find it today and couldn't find it. But at one point in time, I remember Urban Meyer saying, you have to lock out Michigan from the state of Ohio. You can't let them come in here.
Mm-hmm.
From 2008 to when he came, that was a darker time for Michigan. But then that 2011 season happened, and there was some successes there. 2012 class, of the top 5 players, Michigan got 3 of them. Joe Bolden, linebacker; Kyle Callis, the offensive lineman; Chris Wormley, the defensive, I think he's defensive tackle or defensive end. I forget what he came out of high school as. And then in 2013, they got the number 4 player, DeMonte Thomas, the safety, and then they got Taco Charlton, the defensive end. 2015, they got Michael Ferns, which I couldn't even tell you who that is. He transferred to West Virginia right away. He's number 9 player, and then Noah Furbush, who was late teens linebacker. Yeah. And then let me just tell you his. 2015, we got Tyree Kinnell, the safety, who's number 14 in the class. At that point, you saw the tightening of the screws on the lid of that Ohio recruiting jar, because in 2016, we didn't get anybody from Ohio. In 2017, we got 1 player, James Hudson, offensive lineman, transferred to Cincinnati. I think he had a pretty good career there. 2018, we got nobody. And then 2019, I think Ryan Day obviously then came on, and we got the number 6 player, and then we got Eric All and Zach Carpenter, both of which have transferred. And then the lid's shut again. And then 2020, we didn't get anybody. 2021, then we got Rod Moore, who obviously is one of the top safeties in the Big Ten, if not the country this year. And then 2022, no one. And so what I'm looking at here, looking at this list, what I'm seeing is Urban Meyer shutting the door. And then I'm seeing him say, hey, Ryan Day, this is the way it has to be. You can't let them in. And then a couple wins this year of the past 2 years. I'm curious if that's changed anything, because 2023, we got Cameron Calhoun, which I know you guys weren't going after, whatever. And then we got Jason Hewlett. And then, of course, this year, this class, right? This is where you get, potentially Aaron Scott, but then we have Jordan Marshall, Ted Hammond. We got Luke Hamilton. And
we didn't offer those guys, Rice.
Irregardless, it's top 10 talent in the state of Ohio.
Okay.
So, let me ask you your thoughts on that. If with Urban Meyer saying that, and a couple losses happening, and now Michigan's seeking their way back into Ohio. Are you just saying, hey, it's not the top 5 talent, that's fine, you can have them? Or is there a party that's a little suspicious, a little worried?
I wouldn't even say worried. If there was guys like Jordan Marshall, like I wanted Jordan Marshall in a Ohio State uniform, so that kind of sucked. But overall, it's not something to worry about for me, because even when Urban was coaching, he locked down guys in Ohio, but our best players weren't from Ohio. Like, not like our top tier guys were not all from Ohio. Even Jim Tressel eventually stopped only recruiting Ohio Midwest kids and started getting guys like some good guys from Florida. So I mean, if I look right here, right? So this is since 2018, right? So these are all Ryan Day's recruits that he's gotten in the state of Ohio. He got the number 2, number 3, number 4, number 6 guys in the top 10 of Ohio. Okay, none of them went to Michigan. None of them. One went to Clemson, one went to Michigan State, 2 went to Kentucky. That happens. So for some odd reason, kids in Ohio go to Kentucky. In 2019, got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 guys in the top 10. Guys like Zach Harrison, Cade Stover, who's the tight end on the team, Ryan Jacoby, Noah Potter, and Tommy Eichenberg. Guys that Tommy Eichenberg was an All-American. 2020, see, he got the number 1 guy, number 2 guy, number 7. Out of the top 10, a lot of guys went to Kentucky and Cincinnati. And then so on, he still gets guys in Ohio. So I don't think there's anything to worry about. At the end of the day, I mean, Ohio State's a national footprint. Okay, it has its hands everywhere. Lately, I mean, we get our receivers from down south. We go down south to Florida for those guys. Makes sense because Brian Hartline used to play with the Miami Dolphins. He knows the whole area. I think we've been able to get the guys we need in Ohio. A lot of Michigan fans joke when we say we didn't offer the kids, but truth of the matter is they didn't offer them. Even though I believe Ted Hammond is a really good football player, makes up for it when you get Justin Scott. I mean, what do you? I mean, I don't.
Yeah, I don't know if that's anything to be.
It'd be the same way as when I've asked the question, why didn't Michigan get Nick Marsh? And then I get fans saying, "Oh, well, for character issues." I don't want to hear that. The number one receiver, you had the number one receiver in your state go to Michigan State. Why? Why can't you get the number one wide receiver out of your own state? So you didn't get the number one corner out of your own state this year.
The difference is Ohio is just an incredibly talent-rich state. Yes. It's not necessarily maybe Texas or Florida, or Georgia, or California, but it's that next tier down where there's just a stupid amount of talent there. And yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know if there's anything to be worried about, but I think, Meyer had a philosophy, and, you get blown out 2 times in a row. It makes you wonder, like, are you going to lose? I mean, if Michigan walks away with Aaron Scott, like that'll throw things on its head a little bit I think, at least for Ohio State. Like, because you guys will still get your talent, but you have to take care of your home state.
A lot of Ohio State fans have been on. Bryce, I'm trying to tell you for a long time now, Ohio State fans have been comfortable with the fact that you might probably not going to get Aaron Scott. We've been very comfortable with that.
Wow, accepting your fate. Wow. Okay.
No, yeah, I mean, he's been very open with his recruitment. Bryce West I never thought we were not going to get Bryce West. Aaron Scott, man, he seems like an Ohio kid that wouldn't go to Ohio State or who would choose somewhere else, and that's okay. But I mean, we keep talking about Urban and him recruiting Ohio. Okay, well, those are the same athletes, the same classes that got beat 31-0, got lost to Iowa, lost Purdue. So I can care less about whatever he said about recruiting.
All right.
What Urban was doing was that man, I can't think of his name. Was it Jonathan? Was it Cooper? He went. I'm sorry, it was Lee. Ron Lee. He went down to Georgia to go recruit him. He said, if you come to Ohio State, you'll get a chance to beat Bama. That's what he was telling kids down south. Urban knows. I mean, Ezekiel's from Missouri. Yeah, I mean, we're getting our biggest impact players have been from out of the state. And that's the truth.
Yeah.
That's the truth.
All right. Well, I think it's gonna be interesting, man. I think to see how it unfolds with Scott, and then what impact if Michigan will have if they win this year again on recruiting in the home state. It's gonna be interesting, I think, just keep feelers on. So let's move to the next one. So the other big news that came out this week, which is maybe part of a greater conversation, is the Benjamin St. Juste. I apologize if I'm butchering that name. But obviously the former Michigan defensive back out of Canada, transferred to Minnesota, is now playing for the Commanders. He came out and released a TikTok talking about his experience at Michigan. And for those of you who missed it, he medically retired, which based off of the definition, medically retiring is an option that allows those who suffer severe injuries and can no longer participate in collegiate athletics an opportunity to still have an education paid for. And so he, in short, again, if you haven't really heard the story, 4-star athlete, top 15 corner, 6'3", kind of a really good build for a corner, especially the NFL, to which point he is now there playing for the Commanders, having a really solid career. He played 3 games in 2017, hurt his hamstring in, I think it was 2018 training camp, and then had just issues kind of recovering. And so he wanted to go see a specialist. He then signed a piece of paper, which is a key part of the story, to rehab at another campus. He said he felt ready to come back within 2 months. And then coaches asked him to sit out the 2018 season, which he then did. And we're ready to come back in 2019. Michigan essentially moved on from him. And so you read that story or you hear that story, you can watch it and then read up on it, and you think to yourself, that's pretty nasty, diabolical work thing to do. And I'm thinking, what's the story? I don't want to say what's the real story there, right? Because that is the real story that he gave. But what is kind of the other side of things? And you look at recent history with Michigan, Cade, not that Cade or Eric all were medically redshirted or asked to medically retire, but there were conflicts with maybe the training staff, maybe not so much Cade, but more Eric all and how to recover. And then you kind of look back at other guys like Corey Malone Hatcher, a big time 4-star recruit out of the state of Michigan. Did something to his Achilles, couldn't quite recover. And then that's not the only story. There's Gabe Newberg, who's a 3-star out of Ohio. I can't remember what his injury was, but then Isaiah Gash, who had that big 4th down conversion against Illinois this year. He had a second cartilage transplant surgery on his knee, which sounds very serious. But then he medically retired. And then you look at a few other players in NCAA, and you look at Harry Miller, which I understand that situation was a little bit different because it was mental, and there were I think something about suicidal thoughts, and obviously equally as serious. And glad he's, I think, doing better. It sounds like he's doing better. But he had medically retired. But then Marcus Crowley, the running back, right? I think he had to medically retire as well. And then just lastly, Jalen Phillips, I think he was the number 1 recruit of the country, went to UCLA, medically retired, then went to Miami. Yeah. And then I saw, again, because I was reading up on all of this today, South Carolina had 5 this year who medically retired. And so I think it's a super interesting story because you immediately will take the side of the player. Like I take Benjamin St. Juste's side, no doubt, because he's got to do what's best for him. But then it's like, what's the story coming from the school? And I know each case is different, but what is the school's stance? Like, why did they do that? Was there somewhere where they saw him as, he's a body that was not being used and they want to fill his spot, and they thought that's a hamstring, that's the second time hurting that. A lot of times guys don't come back from that. Let's fill the spot. I'm not saying that's the right move, but it's still, and maybe an interesting thought there. So I don't know, Garrison, what do you think of the whole medically redshirt? Because I got a few other thoughts there, but I want to get yours as well on kind of what you think happened there. But then the other just topic of medically redshirting, or sorry, not medically redshirting, medically retiring.
Right. Simply, I think, like you said, it's nasty. Because based from what I get from St. Juice, because Michigan hasn't said anything about it, they made him medically retire. They put it out there that he medically retired. Yep. It wasn't him that said it. He talked about how his dad, they have signed papers. One of it being and of course you need to read the paperwork, but I remember being 19, man. I didn't read stuff I didn't read through stuff like that. Nope. And he talked about how after he got done, and one of the specialists told him he was clear, he's fine. His parents came down from Canada, had a meeting with Jim, and basically they had already given a scholarship away. And I'm guessing that was in the paperwork. And he talked about how his dad went off on Jim, and I think it's because he had no idea. He went to the specialist with the intentions of being back on the team. And when Jim told him he shouldn't to set out that season, I do find that kind of weird. Mm-hmm. I think from the get-go, he planned on giving his scholarship away, and he should have told him that from the get-go.
Yeah. We obviously don't know that for certain, but it's a fair guess.
I don't know for certain, but I'm taking the kid's words.
Yeah.
I am taking the kid's words on that.
Yeah.
And when I talked to someone who's an assistant AD at a college, and they even told me paperwork like that is not normal. It is that is, and they said that someone in compliance should have been going through whoever he signed and vetted that, because that shouldn't be in there. If you send a kid somewhere to a specialist to get healthy, you should not be taking his scholarship away from him. or medically retiring. You can't medically retire someone when they get 3 different people that tell you can play the game of football, and then for some odd reason the school's telling you can't. That's weird to me. I don't.
That's the other part of it that I don't quite understand either. Is if like he's a talented kid. Eric All was a great tight end. I don't want to say great, but a really good tight end. Like had the makings to be. I think his makings to be an NFL tight end, and he's going to a school now that'll definitely help you get there. But you look at that situation, and there were disagreements with Michigan's medical staff and the families and the players. And what's going on there? Because it's not like he's, no disrespect, a walk-on freshman that you can kind of just throw a scholarship on. But he's he's a contributor and a pivotal piece of that offense.
Coming into last year, Eric All was a top 5 to 10 tight end in the nation.
Love it. Exactly. And so what is it, just the thought that Michigan doesn't want to be on the hook? Is it the thought that they don't want to be liable? Is it the thought that maybe they look at an injury like that and say, okay, in history, the result of an injury like this is guys are done. And so let's just move on because it's a competitive market. It's a competitive industry. We got to keep going. I'm not saying that again. I'm not saying that's right, but is that what the thought is? I don't know if if anyone else knows, I would love to talk more about that. Cause I read that story a few times. I'm thinking he was done dirty. He was done wrong.
Yeah, man. I mean, you go and have a good career at Minnesota, then you go to the NFL. You haven't been hurt since.
Yep.
You ain't been hurt since.
No hamstring injuries, no deep tissue. Yeah, I was going through the comments on his TikTok posts, and someone said they want to send their son there. Thanks for sharing. And he responded, they're way better now, assuming he's talking about Michigan. So he sounds like there's no bad blood, which is good because, he turned out to be just fine. Actually, great.
You're fine. You're in the NFL, man.
You're in the NFL. Those are past concerns, but it is a reminder for players and for actually anybody, read the fine print. And then for players, especially, this is a business, and he said that in the video. They're not looking out for you. You got to look out for yourself, whether they are or not looking out for you. But that's what he said. And I think that's a good takeaway.
They didn't go of a top 50, 6'3" corner is crazy though.
Exactly. I just, again, if someone from Michigan's team wants to reach out and talk to us about that, we'd love to have you on.
Yeah. All
right. Well, we'll wrap up here, Garrison, because we're running out of time. But if those you don't know, Garrison was a big time high school running back in the day, a speedster who was tough to bring down, ran hard. And we're going to get outside of college football here and talk about the NFL running back market briefly, because it's interesting, man. It is to see kickers and punters get paid more, to have Bijan Robinson be projected highest paid running back, and that's only because he was a first round high pick. That's interesting. What are your thoughts on the running back market in the NFL?
Well, to that one, I will say that because there's more running backs in the NFL than kickers and punters, so there's probably a third or fourth string guy running back that's probably bringing that number down a little bit. I think that's why the averages. But I think it's sad and disrespectful, man.
You do? Okay.
The running back position is a very instinctual position. It's you either have it or you don't. It's not like it's not a technique type of position. But there are some great running backs in the league who I think are being highly disrespected. And there's guys are gonna go, like Derrick Henry is going to be a Hall of Famer. Nick Chubb is going to be a Hall of Famer. People don't like to hear this. Depending on how his career ends, Ezekiel Elliott might be a Hall of Famer simply because of his stats. So I mean, there's guys like him. There's Saquon Barkley. I mean, he was injured the first couple of seasons of his career, but these last 2 seasons, I said, but he's probably the most physically gifted running back of all time I've ever seen. So like you're 230 pounds and you move like Barry Sanders, and you have the speed of you're in a 4.3.
Yeah.
So I mean, I think when they get to the negotiation table, they need to restructure how they pay running backs, because I think how it goes is that they pay the they get paid a lot their rookie year, but the percentage goes down, where other positions the percentage goes up. So they really need to change that, dude. It is sad to see, because Bryce, I love that position. My dad played running back. I play running back. I appreciate the high praise, but it's sad. I hate seeing him. I love that position, and even the Kansas City Chiefs last year, Isaiah Pacheco. He's no great running back, but was Pacheco? How do you say Pacheco? Right? Isaiah Pacheco.
Yeah, Rutgers kid.
Yeah, hey man, he's a big reason why they won that Super Bowl.
Yeah, this guy's fun to watch.
So
I don't know, man, because I hear you. I hear you. The NFL has, as anyone who watches NFL knows, has moved to a very much pass friendly league,
yes.
Right? So quarterbacks are the highest valued asset, and then you're going to find some receiver targets around them, and that's priority one. If you watch the quarterback series on Netflix, there's a part where I think the second episode where Patrick Mahomes gets picked off, and he made a comment. He's like, "I'm so used to people running defenses playing two deep safeties, and did not use that pass is really open." And to which point he then kind of laughs. He's like, "All right, we're gonna go deep if they're gonna play that." Highlights later in the game, it's a couple deep bombs for a touchdown. And so the point there though is the offense has changed, and I don't know if the running back is as valuable as it is. Those guys are good, but if you look at the Super Bowl matchups, and this is not the only stat you would base this off of, but I think it's a meaningful one. Yeah. Kansas City, Philadelphia last year. Like Miles Sanders was the guy, but he was splitting reps throughout all of the postseason last year. In Kansas City, I think their starting running back was Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and then he got hurt or went down, and then you just mentioned Pacheco. And then the Rams before that, Cam Akers. But did he get in the playoffs? I don't know. We're digging into the database there. But then Cincinnati, right? You've got Mixon, and then you've got who's splitting reps with somebody else there. So Chris Evans, the Michigan player, is there now too. And I'll be curious to see how this shapes out, because I don't know, and people who watch more NFL than I do probably tell me otherwise, but I don't know how much it is worth, because Saquon's special, Derrick Henry's a Hall of Famer. These guys are all potentially great players in the league. But are they great players, or like are they great players? Yes, but are they worth the investment when you could pay somebody else?
I'll put it this way. I'm not sitting here saying you pay Brent Beck's a buttload. That is not what I'm saying. Okay, it's a very injury risk position. It is. You are banging your head against walls at running back. But the top guys, I'm not saying like it's not like quarterback where like they say every quarterback they have to try and like raise the number. I'm not sitting here saying running backs have to do that. Even Saquon Barkley said he's not trying to redo the market. He's not trying to set the market. Just pay the guy.
Just pay the guy.
Because I'll tell you what, depending on your situation, hey New York Giants, your quarterback is probably not in your top 5 best players. I know who your best player is though.
It's number 26.
Exactly.
Yeah, and this as ESPN showed the other day, the performance, the impact that Daniel Jones had when Saquon was in the game and when he wasn't was dramatically different. I don't remember the numbers, but his impact is there. So it'll be interesting to see. It'll be interesting to see how this plays out, because it's the game has changed. People know that, but then these guys are valuable. So who knows? I think we're still early in the story. Oh man. All right. Well, a great first week of shows. Excited about it, everyone. Thanks again. Next week, probably be focused around the media days. Believe it or not, we didn't get credentials, which is pretty hurtful. So we'll complain about that. But I think
it's blasphemous.
Is what?
It's crazy. It's blasphemous, man.
It's blasphemous.
We should be there.
So we've got some fun stuff planned for that. And we'll obviously be keeping tabs on everything going on. We'll be able to talk about it. And if any of you guys out there have any other thoughts or questions on that, feel free to send them in. Let us know. We'd love to discuss. But great first week, man. Here we go. Man. Appreciate anything else?
Oh man, we've said plenty of times, man. This is exciting. I look forward to next week. We talk about Michigan Media Days. I think that's going to be really interesting. I'm actually looking forward to see what Jim says. And I think he always He always has something crazy to say.
As long as he wears his suit with his hat, I'm happy.
And then like you hate my coach because he says nothing. But
vanilla bread or
it is, man.
White bread coach.
Hey, Bryce.
Maybe the question will be:
this is a family show. We don't. That's racy. Don't do that.
It's true. It is. Do you think he'll dye his beard this time, or do you think he'll have a beard? What do we think? What's projected?
He needs to cut that thing off.
I don't know who told him it looks
he look. Yeah.
All right. On that note, awesome stuff. See y'all next week.
Thank you, everyone. See you, Bryce.
See ya.